This is Meet the Movie Press. It's January the 11th, 2018. On the show this week, Globes results, Oscars assemble, John Lasseter's new gig pushback, plus the week's big releases, and so much more. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
This is Meet the Movie Press. You can find us on Twitter at Meet Movie Press. I'm Simon Thompson at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. And with me this week on the panel, as almost per usual, Dimitri. Hi, who are you? Where can we find you?
Hey, movie fans and Meet the Movie Press colleagues. You can find me on Popcorn Talk Network's Anatomy of a Movie, on the social medias at DMovies1701, and of course on this fantastic, great show about the biz, Meet the Movie Press.
Scott Menzel.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome back. Scott Menzel, WeLiveEntertainment.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheOtherScottM.
Guys, a lot of stuff went on this week. It obviously kicked off on Sunday with the Golden Globes. A lot of mixed reactions to the show and a lot of mixed reactions to the winners. First of all, let's talk about the show. People are already commenting in the chat on this. Ricky's been saying very disappointed in the Globes. Not that he personally ever took it totally seriously. Senior nerds, so the Globes were boring. Yeah, a lot of people not loving the Globes this year. It's never the biggest of the awards, but it is the one that's seen as the more populist, as well as the Critics' Choice this weekend. A lot of people, the problems were some of the winners and some of the general ceremony was a bit boring. Did you watch it? What did you think? We'll get to the awards in a second.
For me, I'm not going to reveal this on air, but there was a joke made by Andy Samberg that really, really, really upset my wife.
Okay.
And that opening monologue was just horrendous up until Sandra Oh spoke about the diversity aspect of it. And then that's when Andy Samberg decided to make a very tasteless joke, and then it just took the show down. Those two, Sandra Oh was good.
Yep.
She was trying. Andy Samberg felt like James Franco from the Anne Hathaway days. It's just like everything he said, I just cringed, and it was just bad.
On hosting duties, I thought it was going to be an interesting mix that would add something different. It could have gone either way. I think it went the wrong way. It just didn't land generally for me. It didn't hold my attention and didn't particularly work.
It's because they were trying to be too nice. Like it just, I was like longing for Ricky Gervais to come back.
Oh my God,
like,
that thing he said though about Ryan Coogler. Oh my, like that was just that went off like so wrong. That came off so wrong, and then they showed his face, and Ryan Coogler was not having it.
Yeah, it
just set the tone so wrong in the beginning. It really did.
See, and for me, it was just throughout, because then there was the bit between Maya Rudolph and
Amy
Poehler. The whole, and I'm like, what are they doing?
I mean, I thought,
what is this? Why?
I thought it was mildly funny, but it kind of went on for way too long.
It was Uma Oprah.
Yeah.
I was like, what? But I didn't know what they were doing. Like, what were they making fun? Listen, they really needed somebody there to torch this stuff and make fun of this award show.
Yeah.
There was nothing lively about it. It was boring. It seemed to go on forever. And we'll talk about the winners and losers later, but as far as the show itself, I found
it's always difficult. Awards, I mean, everybody's always talking about the ratings around these award shows. The ratings are never particularly strong for any of them. They haven't been for the longest time. The day of these being real sort of audience grabbers has long gone. There are people who don't care about these award ceremonies for whatever reason, whether it's political, the fact that they just don't really care about them. And a lot of the people who are at home watching TVs, they perhaps haven't seen the movies. A lot of the movies that will win are not the ones that would have been at their multiplex or the ones they would have been particularly interested in, because it's kind of a different kind of thing. I mean, I'm always wondering, whether we actually bother having these shows live anymore. We don't just have them in delay and cut them down to like a 90-minute show. Still have it for the industry, but cut it down, just keep it tighter.
But this was in delay because they were able to beep out swears.
Oh, yeah.
So it
Yeah.
had to be out in some.
Yeah, but
in some
I'm
semblance of a
talking
delay,
about
and-
broadcasting it like a couple of hours afterwards or the morning. Because the thing is that the average person, I think, is very interested in the water cooler elements of having the conversation about who won, whether they saw the movies or didn't, and whether they liked the movies. I think that is really what the Oscars has been boiled down to. And we'll get to the Oscars and the hosting situation later on in the show. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that many people who are outside the hardcore movie fans, like proper fans of cinema, who actually even sort of stay up and watch the show. They will catch up on it either via social media, and they'll go like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And then they'll go and look for that clip.
Yeah.
And I just think that's how more people consume this show.
Yeah, but don't
these days.
forget also that the Golden Globes has positioned itself to be a much looser type of an award show.
Any more
where
looser, it's
people-
going to be an old man's pants.
But it wasn't that loose. I didn't find it to
Come
be very
on.
loose this
No.
year at all. To be
I
honest,
thought
with
the
you.
content was loose. The content was weak. I mean, you know.
But I didn't.
The jokes
find
were bad.
The
The jokes
were
weren't.
just not.
They just weren't. They just didn't work.
work.
They didn't work. That
No.
was the problem.
And that to me is why I was saying like this is supposed to be the award show where a comic is supposed to like go atomic on certain things and talk about and make it maybe a little bit edgy. There was no edge to the show.
But the thing
at
is,
all.
you cannot, and this is awards. We're going to move on from this in a second. But
Sure.
you with awards season in general, you literally cannot please everyone because
No.
you make it edgy, people complain that it's too edgy. You make it political, people complain that it's political. You don't make it political or edgy, people complain that it's not edgy or political. So it's kind of you're I don't think we're ever going to find the happy medium. I think it's just the format that needs re-looking at it. And you can have a show that's 2 hours. The content just isn't strong enough for it. But you can have a show that's 3 hours and is better. I mean, there is no hard and fast rule. I think when it comes down to hosting, it really goes down to the content. And the content that was there simply just wasn't strong enough.
No, but again, just 2 points quick. Number one, I say you have to keep the live aspect because people want to see that train wreck.
Yeah.
You want that clip, you want that meme, or you want something. Like that's part of the reason why we watch and what has made the academies when a streaker comes up on David, like you want that live element,
But
right?
saying
You want
that-
the mistake,
But people aren't watching.
but
But people aren't watching.
I get
That's
it,
the
but
thing.
I don't think switching it to a recorded aspect and edit it down is going to improve that. I don't. So you keep the live aspect. Again, just going back to the Globes, they differentiated themselves from the Oscars as being the looser, edgier. Like to them, it was never about like, okay, so Ricky Gervais comes up, he's incendiary, he blows out the whole crowd, everybody gets pissed, but then they ask them back the next year.
Right,
Or they get
right.
another host and they ask them back.
Yeah.
That's what the Golden Globes always were about. We're just being different. So I don't think it mattered. The Academy Awards now is a way different thing. Like more people pay attention. And I think the host, I know we'll talk about it later, it's lose-lose for the Academy Awards, not so much for the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
It's a different...
I mean, I'm in two schools of thought on it. Certainly, working a lot in TV these days. From the fact that if you did have it pre-recorded and cut down, I mean, obviously there's an element. There's two schools of thought here. The element of the fact is, if you then put it out a couple of hours later or the next night, is you get a tighter show. You get the best bits. And if you want to keep the train wreck bits in, you can keep the train wreck bits in. That's absolutely fine. But the thing is, the downside on that is the fact that everybody will have seen those best bits and those train wreck bits.
Right.
But if it's not televised live, you don't get access to that stuff. You
Yep.
just get the results. And then you have to watch the show. You can tease it to get people to watch it, and then you make it available online. That's just me from a TV producer point of view, where the thing, if you really want, give people a reason to watch the show, rather than here's a show where it might be good or it might be an absolute car crash, and then take your chances. And I think that might actually improve the viewing figures. But that's just me coming from a production
and
point of view.
and that's a professional, and I
Yeah.
get that. I just go from it's
Well, I
live
mean, it's like-
content we shouldn't know anyways. Like what's like just play it live. Like, not know what
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Like this.
Yeah.
Like this.
We're doing it live.
Yeah.
We're doing this live.
But as we know, I mean, most people who actually engage with this content that we create every week,
Sure.
they don't watch it live. They
Right.
they take it in over a week. So I just think it's something that needs to be looked at. And I don't think all the awards ceremonies need to be televised. I
No.
just don't think they do.
Oh, well, I agree
think
about
the
that.
Oscars need to be televised. I think something like the Grammys maybe. But I really don't think. I mean, Jesus Christ! Over this 2 months, it's probably one of the busiest times of the year for me
Yeah.
because everybody is every aspect of the industry is having an awards season, whether it's Oscars, whether it's Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, DGAs, PGAs, WGAs, everybody's having these ceremonies. And I think also audiences get a little bit of burn. They see a lot of these people coming up again and again and again. And I think there's a little bit of a burn in that. There is one thing I think that should be televised, though, and we'll get to that later. Let's stay on the Golden Globes for now. Very briefly talk about the shock winners. People in the chat talking about this. Ricky saying, happy for Rami. Really disappointed that the film is being awarded and enjoyed the movie too. The jokes that Sandberg told were trashed on Seth Meyers' show were a lot better than most of the ones that they chose to tell at the Globes. Zayas B. Lou, Gervais showed his colours in that old video with Chris Rock, him, CK, and Seinfeld. Happy New Year, fellow MTM pressers. Yeah, I mean, Zeno, Oscars are pointless and a dying institution. Don't at me. Do you know what, Zeno? I don't think they are. I think the Oscars are a very interesting point in the road. I think pointless is too strong a word.
Yep.
I think the relevance is questionable. I think it's how we make the Oscars more accessible to people who see it as elitist, but not dumbing it down to making it like the People's Choice Awards or Critics' Choice Awards and stuff like that, which can be seen, or Golden Globes, which can be seen as more populist, even though they're not voted for by the general public. So I think the Oscars, it's going through an interesting transition year, which has been, a period actually, an interesting couple of years where it's been forced by various issues. But I think the whole thing has to be looked at very carefully over the next couple of years to keep it relevant. But I think it's going to be always relevant, and it's always going to have an importance because the brand and the strength of it. I mean, it's the mother of all awards ceremonies. Right. There is nothing in the world that compares to the Oscars. Sure. You know, it's the crown jewels of cinema. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants that nomination. Out of all the nominations, and I'm not doing down any award seasons, but even to make the Oscar long list is seen as a real thing. Yeah. Oscars still have within the industry that relevance.
Oh,
but,
absolutely.
You know, it's just the audiences whether they want to watch it or not. Okay, let's very quickly talk about the Golden Globes results. A lot of people reacting, most of all to basically the fact that A Star Is Born didn't get as many as they thought it was going to get. I mean, it really almost got blanked. It got, best song. And then obviously the other big talking points, Rami Malek, a lot of people supporting that. But then Bohemian Rhapsody walking away with one of those major awards, the top line awards of the night. A lot of criticism of the fact that even though people perhaps didn't like the movie, there was controversy over the director. There were lots of things that people were really sort of poking at with a stick after Sunday night. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it should be known that the HFPA, number one, I wasn't going to say this last week, but now that the show's over, number one, they're really all about who kisses their ass. So it was obvious that Warner Brothers didn't do something right in order to get... I love Bohemian Rhapsody, but when you're talking about from pure creative content, I really, you have to go. Star Is Born is
that
a
wasn't
better,
in the same category.
You're right. But it's still best. Like, I see what you're saying.
It's strange. The whole thing's kind of strange. Like why Bohemian Rhapsody was in musical and comedy,
Right.
Star Is Born wasn't when it's musical aspect too. Right. I mean, but I guess because it's more dramatic, but it makes no sense. It's like pick a side, like which one are you going to be in?
Right. And
but it's not fair to put one because I wouldn't say that the other one's a comedy. It's kind of a drama too. It makes no sense.
It doesn't, and it was just very interesting, and you could see Netflix really bowed down and kissed the HFPA's ring. And you pointed it out just a little bit earlier. The HFPA,
apparently Focus did not at all.
And so apparently, and being that I was on a distribution side and being that I booked prints, I can tell you that the HFPA are extortionists. They need to get what they want, when they want to see it, how they want to see it. And heaven forbid you don't have a print ready for them. I've never seen publicists scared unless it's dealing with the HFPA.
Yeah.
Then they tremble. So I just found it really a fascinating show as to, I mean, we could talk about what our predictions were.
Yeah.
And I know I had, my big thing was Coleman. Olivia Coleman winning, and I was like, "Hey, I got that one right."
Yeah.
So it was
My
just
Bitches. I love that. Oh my gosh, it was great.
Some of the speeches were great too. So,
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I think we all talked about this. I think we all picked her, Lady Gaga winning, and it was funny because I was like, that was a big upset of the night with Glenn Close, but Glenn Close's speech was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal, and it kind of was like, okay, you can win now.
And it was that genuine element that I think a lot of people actually really they catch on, and this is what people talk about now from awards ceremonies.
Yeah.
They talk about fashion on the red carpet. They talk about the exciting any sort of fuck ups on air, and they talk about the exciting speeches. And those are the three components. Those are the three components that people really talk about. And I think just putting it maybe not live anymore wouldn't harness those for some of these other shows.
What were your thoughts about?
I was very surprised. I mean, certainly when it came to Bohemian, I was very surprised that A Star Is Born didn't get more love. Very surprised. Considering talking to people who vote for these things and how much love they had for that movie, I was very surprised that they didn't do it. Very surprised as well that with members of that organization, many of whom had quite severely criticized Bohemian Rhapsody when it came out, to then give it best film, I was very surprised by that. And I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I really enjoyed it as a movie, even though it does have flaws. And I know there was controversy around the director, and there's debate around that. But for me, that wasn't, as much as I loved it, that wasn't best film of the year. It was in my top 10, and I really loved it. But I mean, just because it's in my top 10 of the year doesn't mean it's the best film. That was from an enjoyment point of view. As far as a cinematic point of view, no, I think there were films that were considerably
Black
better.
Klansman not winning
Black
that
Klansman
category
is great.
Right.
I mean, Star Is Born I thought was
agreed.
great.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the categories, let's not forget that it's only a couple of years since The Martian won for best comedy and comedy and musical.
Yeah.
And even the people in that movie were like, really? We're neither a comedy or I don't remember any musical aspect or much comedic content within The Martian. I mean, maybe I haven't seen the Adam Sandler cut. I don't know. But I mean, it was like, whoops, here's a booby gang.
Actually, the Snyder cut to The Martian is great.
No, yeah.
Okay, well, release the Snyder cut. But yeah, so it's just, kind of weird. I mean, there were Green Book. I know there was a lot of controversy around Green Book getting the love that it has. Personally, I still really enjoy that movie. I know there's controversy around it, but as a movie,
God, it never stops.
I've enjoyed it.
It's dopey too.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's almost like people hate that movie and they want to find stuff from 50 years ago.
Well,
and it's a good movie.
But also there are still markets where it's getting hate that it hasn't even opened in yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait until you've seen the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Just, it's like a vegan going into a steakhouse and going, well, there's nothing for me to eat here. You went to the steakhouse.
Yeah.
Have a salad.
Okay, that wasn't helpful. Wasn't helpful. Now you've upset our vegan audiences. But no, seriously, it's like, wait until you see the movie, and then, obviously, yes, there is controversy around this, and, showing people your penis is generally not a good idea, unless they want to see your penis, which most people don't. Let's be really honest.
And
most people don't want to see your penis.
No.
If they ask to see your penis, then that's a green light.
Yeah.
But generally, rule is, don't show anyone your penis.
And we're back to our Twitter conversation about what people said on Twitter. Therefore, proving my point a couple weeks ago when I said if you dig back deep enough, you'll find something that someone said about anything.
Yeah,
and
no,
here
absolutely.
we go again.
And here we go again.
But yeah, so obviously there's controversy around, there was a tweet this week, and there was, but it's like, people,
what was I digging back to all the way 9/11 or something? It was literally going back 18 years. Let's go.
It's from the first tweet ever.
Yeah.
It's like,
but yeah, it's funny. But let's move on to the Oscars because we only have so much time in the show, and we've already taken 20 minutes. So let's talk about the Oscars. This year is going to be no host for the Oscars. And there is also a plan to assemble the Avengers to present at the hostless Oscars. I'll be honest for you, as much as I enjoy the Marvels movies, I don't.
They're supposed to be dead. They're supposed to be dead.
I just don't. I don't feel so good about this. I just don't. I don't think that's going to be a draw. I think people are interested to see the Avengers if they're promoting a movie, which they're not quite in that window yet. but they're doing it as the Avengers on red carpets and on TV shows, or they're at a premiere, or, you know, they're in an Avengers movie. I just don't think... To me, if you want to have a really good stunt for the Oscars, what you do is you get the Avengers, you get the Marvel guys, and then you also get the DCEU, and you talk about unity. And you talk about fandom. And you talk about supporting each other.
That's good.
That's what you do. Just pulling the Avengers out like a fucking rabbit at a magic show.
ABC after all, baby.
I know, but I just don't think it's that much of a draw.
Why don't you just get the freaking street players off of Hollywood Boulevard and bring them in and call them the
like
Avengers?
Fat Elmo.
That guy who played Bumblebee was really good yesterday when I went down there.
No, it's just... Go ahead.
Czechoslovakian Captain America is a personal favorite of mine.
The guy in the It mask, I like him too.
Yeah, it's like that's actually not a mask, and he's really offended. But no, I mean, I just don't think, to be honest with you, you know, as starry and as popular as the Avengers movies are. And do you know what'll be really embarrassing? If you obviously, we don't know who the nominees are for the Oscars yet. You know, ballots have closed. We're going to find out very soon. But if you pull the Avengers out, as like, here are the Avengers, the saviors of Hollywood. And then you go, and the losers are Black Panther. We kind of ignored Black Panther here. So this is kind of fucking awkward. We've got everybody on here stage. Can you guys just shuffle off for a minute, please? Sorry. It's just going to be, I'm just like, thanks for coming. We don't respect your art.
As if the Oscars aren't always, like, already, like, it's self-promoting. And now that whatever subtlety there used to be,
remember when they did that thing for Wrinkle in Time last year?
Oh, good God!
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go into the movie theater to see Wrinkle in Time.
But were the Oscars on
in
ABC?
theaters soon?
Wait, were the Oscars on ABC?
Yes.
Yeah.
ABC's owned by Disney.
Yes.
Disney has Wrinkle in Time and the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one. I mean, it's ridiculous, and
I just think it's too much, and I just don't think it'll play the way. I think it'll play against them than it will play for them.
True.
The cynicism is just plugging. I don't think it's the best idea. I think if they had tied it within like DCEU and gone togetherness, I think would be really. Especially, I mean, aside from division in the world, but I think division within fandoms, I think would be really important to get, you know, Aquaman, a massive success at the box office despite its very lackluster opening weekend. It's doing phenomenally well. You know, the success of Wonder Woman. You've got a Wonder Woman movie coming out later in the year. Two Avengers. You've got an Avengers movie coming out. You've got Captain Marvel. You've got strong women there. You've got POC.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
I'm just like, to get all of those people on stage talking.
my problem with
Brie
this
Larson
is,
and Gal Gadot.
Hey, I'm Hawkeye. You might know me from such things as My Miracle Pillow. I don't know.
my
It's
miracle
like,
bow and arrow.
hey,
No, but here's my problem.
you having problem
but then
pooping?
again, that goes to say that people only want to see superhero movies too, right? I mean,
but then they're not the movies that they reward for being these amazing pieces of cinema, and I'm like,
they should just jettison the idea.
Just
It's not a good idea.
I don't think it's a draw.
And I think that this hostless kind of thing is going to be an experiment. I mean, do any of us here think it's going to work? Like, is that, I don't, yes, no?
They have to have presenters and they have to have them set up so they're entertaining. But who's going to open the
who's gonna
show?
do
That's
that?
what I'm saying.
Right.
You still need someone to open this show.
Right? You still need that. So here's
So
my
I guess
other
we can just
question,
do
though,
a
too.
musical number, right?
Let's not
Sure,
talk over each
because-
other. We're getting a little bit jumbled.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sure, because everybody loves musical numbers.
I do.
Here's my thing.
They do it
What
in
the-
Holmes and Watson. That went down well.
I see what I'm saying.
Just saying.
But
That was a bad idea.
they've had a year to figure this out. What the hell have they been doing? Look, I don't think there's anybody can argue that the Oscars, the Academy we need new leadership here.
Yeah.
Like, they are so disorganized.
Yeah.
Why are we talking host of the show literally 2 months before the show
Oh
is
my
going
God,
to
not
air?
even now.
And it's ridiculous. You have a year to plan this out.
Yeah.
And like, you go to Jimmy Kimmel first. If he says no, then you should have your plan B, C, D, E, and F already. Like, this should be decided like in March, April, not a month and a half before the show goes on. What are you paying attention to?
Yeah.
They need to be revamped.
Yeah. No,
They
I
really
agree.
do.
I agree.
The whole process.
There's a couple of little bits of TV news that have come through today, and a couple of people are asking if we're going to discuss that on the show. We're not going to discuss that on the show, purely because we about movies. And if there's an overlap, we will cover it, but we just simply don't have time to go into every single story that comes out this week. Some feedback on other things we discussed, though. Ricky's saying the biggest point is that is the HFPA and not Oscars voters. Most people don't realise that. No, absolutely. Ricky also saying it only made sense as Bohemian Rhapsody made over 700 million worldwide. Makes total sense, but still odd. But again, these awards are not handed out on box office. If these awards were handed out, or even box office was a factor, most of the movies that would not be nominated for the Golden Globes, the Oscars, that are nominated for the Golden Globes or the Oscars. I mean, Eighth Grade is getting a lot of love from people. It hasn't made a lot of money. La La Land, in comparison to most movies, really didn't make that huge amount of money. It wasn't exactly the widest. It went wide, but it wasn't the widest of wide releases. A lot of the movies that often get things. I mean, if Beale Street Could Talk's another really good example.
Yeah, no one.
That's not pulling in audiences, but it's getting a lot of love critically. I don't think we have to. Box office, global or domestic, does not have to conflate.
It doesn't matter in
what
awards
you
season.
can make an amazing movie that makes hardly any money that gets a lot of love, and you can make a huge budget movie that gets more. I mean, do you remember when people lost their shit, including me, over the Suicide Squad Oscar?
Yeah,
it's like, but then if you go, well, it made a lot of money, you can't conflate the two. They've got to be held as independent.
But we're also forgetting that one minor experiment the Academy tried to throw on everybody, which was the Blockbuster Academy Award.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do.
Earlier this year?
Yeah, I still need to take that back. I still need to take that back, by the way. I've got to pay a load of fees on that. And also, Ricky saying Green Book had some controversy that you kind of can't blame people for raising an eyebrow to, especially with the Farrelly thing. No, absolutely. I think you have to take these controversies in board, but also you can't. I mean, he got his cock out in was it 2008, 1998, something like that.
Yeah, I forget if it was something about Mary or Kingpin.
Yeah, it was something about Mary when he did it. I mean, it's not okay to do that. It is not okay. But he didn't go, hey, you're going to love this in 30 years. I just think it's a stupid thing to do, and he shouldn't have done it. But it's I just think you have to look at, if you're looking at a movie, look at a movie. It's like, we've discussed this on the show previously, so I'm not going to go into it again with the guys. But it's like sometimes, even though someone can do something that is despicable, it doesn't suddenly make movies that they made that are great, like Kevin Spacey and some of his movies. Suddenly you go, well, suddenly it's a shit movie. Yeah. You have to, it's abominable, and you can condemn an act, but you can't then condemn the art unless obviously that is directly linked to it in kind of a, filthy way, an inappropriate way. Xeno Hour. So the Avengers and JL with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ben Affleck. Okay, we're not going to go into sort of fancy casting stuff because we have a lot to do. I will mention, though, Smirking Gun Reviews. The Kaminsky method is proof that the Hollywood foreign press shouldn't be taken seriously. I actually love the Kaminsky method. I'm watching that on Netflix at the moment as a TV show. I think that's a genius bit of TV. But nobody appears to be watching it, and nobody knows about it.
No.
And I mean, even was representing foreign press, a lot of places overseas, it really hasn't. It's a very American product, and Americans aren't engaging with it. Okay, let's move on back to.
And I can equally say, as many people who know Kaminsky method know the wife. I mean, I had people go. I mean, again, I'm not slandering Glenn Close. I'm just saying people are like going, the hell's The Wife?
The Wife's another example of a movie that's getting a lot of awards recognition or a lot of love from people within the industry, but people didn't. That wasn't a hit movie.
Yep.
You can have amazing performances, amazing direction, but if people don't go to see it, so you can't conflate box office really. No. Very quickly, BAFTA nominations. The Favourite has led with 12 this week. No real surprise there. Kind of knew that was going to happen. A couple of other interesting choices. It is worth looking this year at the. Every year, BAFTA have a basically now up-and-coming star that they represent. The people that they have lined up for this year is perhaps the most interesting in about 3 or 4 years. So it is worth checking that out and having a look at who they've recommended. It's really interesting choices this year. Let's talk about another controversial story. I don't want to go too far on this because we have a lot to get through. But John Lasseter is now in charge of Skydance Animation. A lot of kickback from this, obviously, because the allegations that were made against him when he was working at Pixar. He then took a bit of time out of the industry. He's now come out. A lot of people in the industry saying not okay, and a lot of women within Skydance are actually saying, I'm not going to work there if he's going to work there, which I think is an understandable viewpoint from them. What did you guys think about this week? from a higher point of view, but also looking at it from the issues that we have within the industry and the concerns we have with the industry, but also potential damage to the brand. Because a lot of people hadn't heard of Skydance animation, certainly the guy on the street. Now they're hearing about it in not a positive way.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on this?
It's so strange, this whole thing, because, I mean, in a lot of ways, this man is responsible for creating one of the greatest animation studios of all time.
And a brand.
And a brand that is just legendary and will continue to go on for decades.
Yeah.
And I struggle with this question all the time, and it's always controversial what to say on this because, you know, I always love to try to separate the artist from the art, but I know that you can't always do that, and especially when there's other people involved. Right. And, you know, it's kind of what you said earlier about like Kevin Spacey. We can't go back and say American Beauty was a terrible movie because it's an amazing movie. You know, I don't know. I think what I guess my end game with this would be he's done what he did what he did, and I guess his punishment, we should not reward him by keep giving him more stuff, but we can't neglect what he actually accomplished. So we just don't reward him moving forward, and we look back and say, you know what, you had a good thing going, you fucked this up yourself, and you're done.
And this is something that, I mean, I know when Jeepers Creepers 3 came out last year.
Oh my God.
Now, I still love Jeepers Creepers.
Me too.
I enjoyed Jeepers Creepers 2. I didn't think it was as good. I made an active choice to not see, and it's on Netflix. Sure. It's available, and it's on Sci-Fi Channel. I choose not to watch it because knowing what I know now, I don't want to contribute to anything that would potentially make that person successful, and I can do that in my own quiet way without making a big song and dance about it, although I understand when a song and dance is made about it. But I can also look at Jeepers Creepers in the same way that I did and go, it's still a great movie. Now I know about the director, I can choose an action to not involve with his stuff in the future. And I'm wondering if audiences will potentially do that with Skydance.
I don't know. It's interesting because we also have to break this down as to the level of the inappropriateness. I'm trying to say this in a way that's not overly controversial.
Yeah.
But he didn't do anything that was Bob Weinstein. He didn't, like, to my knowledge. Okay. Whatever's
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And Kevin Spacey. And to my knowledge,
which are, let's just be clear, those are allegations that are being grounded, criminal proceedings may or may not continue off the back of that, just for a legal point of view.
And I'm sort of kind of liken it to like an Al Franken kind of a deal. Was what he did right. He's a comedian, he did this, and there's that debate, but he immediately lost his job. So, and again, I am not sticking up for John Lasseter and or behavior.
It's wrongness on a gradient.
Right.
No, I understand that.
We need to, you know, he did the right thing. I think the way that it was handled at Pixar, it really, like, he went away. Like, he literally just went away. I don't know how these allegations, nothing criminally is being brought up against him. You know.
Correct.
So having a second chance, Skydance Animation, I'm not sure it's necessarily rewarding him for bad behavior. I think that's rewarding him for what he's done. And does a person deserve a second chance when an allegation, depending on that gradient, like, you know, has he learned, has he become a different man from this? You know, Al Franken has, for sure, right? And that's the interesting
There's some
thing.
chat in the room on this, because obviously everyone understandably has an opinion on this. Glamour is saying 1 million in previews for The Upside. We're going to get to The Upside later, despite more controversy for Kevin Hart. Ricky's saying Lasseter, not Weinstein level. No. But way too soon to have this high-level positional power job. And Zeno Hour saying a stupid tone-deaf move by Skydance. I think it is. And like I say, like you say correctly, we do have to slightly sort of put things in a box of level of... None of it is okay. You don't touch anybody. You don't make inappropriate suggestions. But you have to put it on a gradient of wrongness, effectively, where you have to look at it. But also, that said, I think, bearing in mind that these allegations are made, it is tone deaf. And unless you're a company that makes an asserted effort along with the hire to put a mechanic or a system in place so that people who may feel vulnerable feel protected, I think you have to do that as part and parcel of that.
Do you think though?
But I can understand why people don't want to work with him.
I could understand.
I can understand that.
But do you also go on the Skydance side of things and feel that they had done their research prior to making the hire? Do you think that they did their due diligence to make sure?
Not knowing either way, I can't possibly comment on that. But I think obviously there will have been conversations that will have been had, knowing that there potentially could be some kickback on this, about whether it was the right decision to make. They wouldn't have taken this decision lightly, whether it's a wrong decision or a right decision.
It really baffles my mind because it's so much on an individual basis with all this stuff. Because
I think it is.
Because, there was stuff that came out about Morgan Freeman a couple of months ago, and that just got swept underneath the rug. We talked about the James Gunn thing.
Yep.
And I feel like everyone kind of just accepted that, but it's weird. It really just depends on the person.
It depends on the person,
and it depends on the act,
the infraction, I guess. And sometimes we're too quick to act.
But
sometimes.
It's also what I really can't stand about now is that allegations are one thing. It's I feel like we never get that end result. Like we never find like what really happened at the end of the day. Like we don't get like, besides Weinstein, where we're like, okay, that fucker's in jail.
Yeah.
We don't get that with anyone else. It's
we're hearing about it about Kevin Spacey, especially being in New England.
Think of all the names that
Let's
have
not
come
talk
up.
over each other, guys.
No, just think about the names that have come up over the last year and a half. You got those two, but there's all these other ones.
But also, I mean, and I'm, there's again, we're getting into a larger discussion.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
But it's a case of no charges were made against Lasseter.
Right.
Allegations were made. He lost his job at Pixar. He's now got his job somewhere else. I think we do. I mean, even though I'm very much. I mean, I worked in news journalism, and I know that unless you're found guilty of something in a criminal court of law, you have to be presumed innocent in a criminal capacity, whether or not something happened. So I think it's really difficult that you have to. It's never an easy subject to talk about, and I believe that if you do something that is inappropriate, you absolutely should be held accountable, and you should take responsibility for that, and you should be able to accept the fact that there will be professional and personal repercussions for that. But also, if it's not then something that becomes a criminal thing, you have to be able to move forward in some capacity, You don't necessarily get to choose that capacity. But it's a difficult situation. There is no right or wrong. There is no one size fits all. I agree with you. You have to look at each of these cases individually. But I entirely understand, and I support the people who decide that they don't want to work with the company anymore. Yeah. And if you don't feel safe doing something, then don't do it. So it's very difficult, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this decision moving forward, and how if this affects Skydance from a point of view in the marketplace, putting products out there, whether it just goes away, and whether it sort of affects anything like the price of the company or the value of the company. We'll have to see how that sort of manifests itself, and we won't know that right now.
No.
So they'll only know that further down the road. So I think it's something we have to keep an eye on. Let's talk about some hires this week. A lot of people suggesting stories in the chat. We unfortunately don't have a room to cover every single story during the week. So we're just picking a handful for the show each week. So please, be understanding on that. Dune will reunite Dave Bautista with Denis Villeneuve as Beast in the Dune remake. Also this week we heard that Stellan Skarsgard is going to be boarding that. A film that I was incredibly unexcited about, I'll be honest with you, and especially after Blade Runner 2049, which was beautiful, but I found unbelievably dry, and I didn't like it as a movie. So good hires, though. I'm liking the way that this is casting at the moment. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I mean, I always thought that this was kind of an edgy move to remake this.
It's
risky.
It's a gamble.
Yeah, I think it's a gamble.
It's a real gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, Denis Villeneuve, he's a really good director though, and I mean, I don't know. I think he can kind of pull it off. And this cast, he's always brings some A-list talent to it.
He does. I think Bautista, I mean, as soon as he was announced, I'm like, well, he has to be playing a Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, the history of Dune in film, there's an amazing, it's great.
Yes.
And there's an amazing documentary about, who's the gentleman that wanted to produce Dune before, and he was using people that, like, this is in the 70s. And it's really great because it just, how much money was being thrown into this, and then it never happened. And then, years go by, then David Lynch picks it up, right? And then you're casting Kyle MacLachlan, you're casting Sting, even a very young Patrick Stewart prior to Picard. And the movie's a mess. I mean, it needed a lexicon. You literally, as you stepped into the theater, you were handed a lexicon of things about what you were about to watch.
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen in a movie before. And then the Alan Smithy cut of that comes out. Now, then there was a very good science fiction, a Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, which is a really good adaptation. And now Denis Villeneuve, it's going to be interesting, his take. This movie can languish. What are they going to focus on? It's a hard movie to adapt, and it's all going to be about adaptation, not so much cast. The cast has me excited, but it's how this is going to be taken.
It also, the length of it is always a concern, because one thing I will agree with you on Blade Runner 2049 is the runtime of that movie.
Yeah.
He does not make short movies, and I feel like when it comes to a length of a movie, unless it's really captivating and really action-packed and interesting, I think that hurts box office. I really do, because I don't think people really want to sit through it.
No, it has to be substantially and prolonged strong.
Yeah.
In order for people to really want to commit to that. And in an age where it seems like increasingly more people are getting their phones out if they're bored in the movie theater,
right?
Going to be a hell of a lot of phones on there.
That's it. Jodorowsky's Dune. Thank you, Zeno Hour. That's exactly what I was talking about. If you haven't seen this documentary, it is a really great, piecing together and trying to make this Dune movie. And they were using artists and people who eventually ended up working on Alien. It's a great documentary.
In the chat, we've got a couple more things to get through on the show before we talk about the week's big releases. Going back to the award shows, no one watches live because whoever wants to know who won can watch a 5-minute wrap-up, watch speeches on YouTube, and find out who won on Twitter. Yeah, you can, absolutely. I mean, there are certain broadcast restrictions around what can stay around online legally after the ceremony. I know I have to deal with that shit every year. And that's from Jody. Jody also saying, no one cares about what or who the stars wear on the red carpet either. Simply not true, Jody.
That's not true.
I can say from a point of view of a content creator, whether it's for a broadcast TV channel or for an agency, certainly when I'm working at Reuters, it is one of our biggest selling pieces of content that people use when it comes to video. So you might not care about it. The market for that kind of stuff is huge, and it's one of the big things that the general press talk about after the event. So I would disagree with you on that. And the actors, Jodie's saying finally, the actors and movies that are nominated, the general public has never heard of or seen again, and no one cares. No, I mean, you do get a lot of people. I mean, a really good example of this that stands out to me, and I was thinking about this just the other day, is the guy who played the pirate. I completely blanked on his name for a second. Played the leader of the pirates in the Tom Hanks movie.
Captain Phillips.
Yeah, Captain Phillips.
Oh,
I mean,
my God,
who
yes.
Hollywood was bestowing, and again, it happened with the guy.
He was in Blade Runner 2049, as a matter of fact. We all bring it back.
Jean Dujardin from The Artist.
Oh, yes.
Hollywood darling. Now is back doing, which is fine because he's still a successful actor in Europe, but it's like Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. We do tend to do this, but also you can't then, if someone does a great job, you can't not reward them for doing that great job in that movie. Sure. So it is a little bit difficult. So I don't think we're ever going to find the right balance there.
What about the Life is Beautiful? Roberto
Bellini.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, sometimes these people do get rewarded and then they don't really sort of, go on to do much. They don't aspire to be. But a lot of actors, who do well, a lot of them don't, or they take like 15, 20 years to aspire to being that top level. And there are a lot of actors, but very few, there's only so amount of space and few of them go on to be movie stars. A lot of them continue to act for a long time, but never in major roles. Some other casting before we move on to the week's big releases. Venom sequel confirmed. Kelly Marcel returning to write, but Ruben Fleischer won't direct. Yay! Venom sequel! Yay! The only thing I ask is, is that, I mean, I was not a massive fan of that movie by any stretch of the imagination. I hope that now they've got all that stuff out of the way, they can just make it a better movie.
Well, they got
A
Ruben off
stronger
there.
movie.
He's a one-hit wonder, in my opinion. So,
We'll see what happens.
That movie
A lot
found
of
its stride.
potential.
yeah.
But
It found its stride in the last 5 minutes, and I hope that's where they're picking up this movie to go with, as you said in the sequel. I hope now that they got a lot of that junk out of the way, I hope we get a movie.
yeah. I mean, I can only hope. But again, I mean, going back to the comment earlier on the Oscars thing, is the fact that if you're going on Oscars, is like the movies that made the most money, Venom's an Oscar nominee.
Right.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's a Razzie nominee.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. Jordan Peele's Us is going to have its world premiere at the 2019 South by Southwest Film Festival. As previously done particularly well. That's going to have a lot of buzz, and I think that's pushed back the release date by a week. Ooh, because I'm super excited to see that movie. But no surprise there; it's the perfect place for that to be released. Margot, are you guys excited about that movie? And we talked about it in depth the other week.
I just want to say that,
Yeah.
I go to South by Southwest. I think I've gone more to that festival than any other film festival. And horror movies have such a great home there.
They do.
And I mean, Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead, Quiet Place last year.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do that as a secret screening at Sundance. Remember I talked about last week? And, to open it up after seeing how well The Quiet Place did this year, that's a smart move.
I think that's why they actually came out and said this week, because everyone's going like, I need to get tickets for that screening. Need to get tickets for that screening.
But
I was going like, I'm okay.
What is the lead time between South by Southwest and the opening of the film now?
I think a week now.
It's a week.
So
Which is about right, because sometimes they do this where they launch something at film festivals weeks before, and everybody's got their reviews and their Twitter stuff
Ready
and blah,
Player
blah,
One.
blah.
Remember they did that last year?
Yeah.
Well,
It needs to be within 7 days. People have got really short memories these
I
days.
will say A Quiet Place disproves that.
It does.
A Quiet Place was screened well before its release
And
date.
Bridesmaids and Spy.
And it really built up a momentum for Paramount.
I think there are
And
exceptions
I
to the
don't
rule.
know.
I think
I'm
that,
not
I mean,
saying there aren't,
I think those are exceptions to the rule, because a lot of other movies where it's had that initial reaction at something like Comic-Con or a film festival, and you haven't seen it for months, when it actually comes to people putting their bums on seats. I'm not talking about hardcore film fans. I'm talking about regular people. A lot of people are like, oh, I thought that was out already, because they have like a week or 10 days or 2 weeks where they wait for a movie. They know it's coming out. But if you promote these movies too far and there's a buzz too far in advance, I mean, I think that's part of the problem with Mary Poppins, is because there was so much press activity almost a month or more before the movie was actually released. The people thought the damn movie was out. And by the time the movie came out, they were kind of tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And I think they really kind of cannibalized the buzz for that movie. Had they done that in the last 2 weeks, Mary Poppins, and it's 2 weeks away, people can plan and pencil that in. But when it's like a month and a half, a lot of people don't, I mean, it's like, people don't really plan that far ahead unless it's like a family activity or something. So I think, there's pros and cons, but I think there are some exceptions to the rule where it does hold, but we often see, more often than not, by the time a movie is premiered somewhere and then gets a release, it's, if it's more than a month, it's quite a risky tactic. It is quite a risky tactic. Word of mouth movies, I think it can work well on. Other movies, I think it could be a very risky tactic.
But that's what I'm saying. A movie like A Quiet Place really heavily relied on word of mouth. It was a horror movie, right? It was done differently. That's why I'm not entirely
like
sure.
I say, there are exceptions.
But I'm not entirely sure a movie like Us, right? All right, so say this movie comes out, that Universal, they're only going to have a week now.
But Us has got a built-in base because of Get Out. So I think with Us, that's an exceptional case.
Okay.
Where people have been waiting for this movie since Get Out.
Okay.
So I think you've got people who are genuinely already locked into this, as you are with many things like some of the Marvel movies and the DC movies and stuff like that. I think this is one that is an exception to the rule, where it has this built-in audience who are ready to buy their tickets as soon as it opens.
And also throw out Halloween in Toronto.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some people talking in the chat about mentioning the story from Batman this week. The Batman could start filming in November. A new report claims the Reeves script's been all but officially approved by the studio, with the production targeting a November start for principal photography. Yeah, I mean, there's talk about that. Let's see how that pans out. Still no official word if Ben Affleck will reprise his role as the Dark Knight or if the superhero will be recast entirely. There isn't public word on that. Let's talk about very quickly before we go into the week's big releases. The Margot Robbie Barbie movie is officially happening as Warner Brothers finalizes their deal with Mattel. That came this week. Everybody's been associated with that. Anne Hathaway, Amy Schumer. Now it's Margot Robbie.
I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care.
It'll be interesting to see what this end product is, but right now it's not a film that I'm.
Don't care.
And I don't even know if you're aiming for that young women audience, sort of the kids to tweens to teens. I don't know if Barbie's still. But we'll see. I mean,
Barbie is still relevant from an iconic,
Yeah.
but from a doll standpoint.
yeah.
I will give the benefit of the doubt to Margot Robbie. She seems to approach movies with, it's very well thought out
Yeah.
from her point of view. Again, do I care about a Barbie movie? Not really. But that she's attached to it is what I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
But until I get more information, because who knows, within a month she could be off the project too.
Well, I'm also worried about the Robbie Byrne because she does have a lot of movies coming up in the next 2 to 3 years, and I'm always happy to watch something that she is in because she's consistently good, even if the film isn't particularly good. But you can have, it's like if you have movies, whoever you are as an actor, if you have movies that are coming along like buses, everyone goes, oh, it must be a Friday, there's another Margot Robbie movie. You just want to make sure that you're consistently working, but you don't want to burn. I'm a little bit concerned that when you get, and it's like Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, another really good example.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, there are three Tiffany Haddish movies, 4 Tiffany Haddish movies in a year. I love Tiffany Haddish. That's a lot of movies, and some of them are going to bomb. You can really damage your collateral there. Let's talk about the week's big releases. I say big releases. Okay, let's start off with Replicas. Has anybody seen this? This is sneaking out like a cheeky fart.
It really snuck out.
Yeah.
Literally. That was a left cheek.
Apparently, it leaked online a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did it?
Yep. I don't know why or how, but it apparently leaked online. I did not see it. I did not care to see it. I heard awful things
I
about
know
it.
people that have seen it who weren't particularly impressed with it. I saw some reaction to that end of last year. So, I mean, we talked previously about movies that if you don't want to release them in movie theaters, sometimes you have to, because of the financial deal and the funding, you have to release them on theatrical before it can go to VOD. They maybe would have been better off just doing this as a VOD on a Netflix or a Hulu or an Amazon Prime or a whatever and pushing it that way. I don't know.
And this is an Entertainment Studios, which is Byron Allen's company.
Yeah.
And this is this for lack of better words, they're an indie studio trying to make their bones. They did 47 Meters Down, which was a really big hit for them. And
Hurricane Heist was a moderate hit, and everything else has been kind of really
under the radar.
Yeah.
Like this movie just came out. I didn't even realize it was on a release schedule until I started seeing. It's like, wow, you're finally releasing this. Now, the interesting story to this that I can add is that this movie was being promoted at this past year's CinemaCon, so all the way back in March, right?
Yep.
They were supposed to, from what I gather, they were supposed to have support by Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Unfortunately, at the time, Keanu Reeves was filming John Wick, so he couldn't promote that. They took it off. Entertainment Studios had taken it off its original date.
Yeah.
There was no slate. I thought they were just waiting for him to be free to do promotion.
Yeah.
But then they've just lost their head of distribution, Entertainment Studios, within the past month. So I just think if it did release online, if it leaked online, they're just trying to mitigate that and just push the movie out because of a contractual
It's a
obligation.
Keanu Reeves movie. It's an action
Yeah.
movie. It'll probably be in theaters for like 1 or 2 weeks. Then they could probably check it on VOD. A Dog's Way Home.
I really wanted to see this,
Yep.
but I didn't get a chance to because the screening was the same night as something else.
Yeah, I know. The LAOFCS, which we'll get to before the end of the show, because we're like I say, we're running out of time. We've been trying to keep it
I
tight.
am surprised at how good the reviews are for that movie.
It's been
though.
it's been pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
I've
go
seen
see
some
it this
pretty
weekend.
consistent reviews on that.
I think I saw the movie. It's called The Trailer. The trailer tells you everything about that movie.
Let's talk about the upside. I saw the movie. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's a great January movie. I mean, I'd have liked to have seen it go a bit harder. Really add a little bit of skin to the bones. But I think as far as a generally entertaining movie, I think is actually pretty good. Kevin Hart's pretty good. I like his performance in this probably more than anything I've seen in the last 12 months outside of Jumanji. It shows that he's actually got some acting chops, which is good. Bryan Cranston is really good in this. I think he's really good. They work really nicely together. A couple of things that are kind of thrown up as part of the plot, which really didn't go anywhere, which I was a little bit disappointed. Would have added some meat, so I don't know whether that was lost in the edit or the process or whatever, but they could have probably cut that out. I mean, it's fine. It's it's a 5 or maybe 6 out of 10. It's a fairly reasonable thing.
Yeah, I saw this way back when.
You did. I've seen your name on the television adverts.
When the Weinstein
had it. Of course.
When Weinstein had it, I saw it at Toronto when it premiered. It is a remake of The Untouchables.
Yep.
And that is a French film, one of the first French films that me and my wife actually saw before we officially got together. So that's really nice. And we saw this movie together too. And I have to agree with you, Simon. I think it's another crowd pleaser, feel good movie.
Yep.
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but those two together, they really work. They bounce off one another. They have great energy, and their chemistry is through the roof.
Yeah, I thought it didn't make me angry.
Yeah,
it was a movie that was on a silver screen. Like their chemistry together is better than you would expect. And it's really good, right? I agree with you about Kevin Hart's performance. Bryan Cranston's fine. Even Nicole Kidman shows up, and she was really good too. So, but the movie itself is just there. When you talk about crowd pleasers, again, I hate to keep on stumping a movie like Instant Family, but that had really true emotion and heart.
Yep.
This one just seemed to want to do the basics.
Yeah.
It seemed to just want to just get it out there. They went very basic, very simple, and it'll work for them.
And we had this conversation over breakfast this morning. It feels like an 80s comedy. Who did you say would be casting it?
I said it would have been Jack Lemmon and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, I could see that movie. I mean,
back in the 80s.
This went through a lot of recasting over the last couple of years. I mean, this has been a movie they've been trying to bring out since, I think, like 2011, 2012. Yeah, it's like that was 2010, 2011.
Yeah, the foreign film, it's funny, this is the perfect American remake, though.
Yeah.
Because it's like it takes out those elements of the foreign film that really you're kind of you have to be in that element and you have to understand the culture.
Right.
And they put in there and they add Americanized jokes in there.
Yeah.
So I do get what you're saying. I do feel there's certain things that are a little lazy about it. But
I mean, it went through several castings, and I think they've ended up with a really nice pair. I think they could have been pushing it a little bit more. As far as the box office is being, it's going to be Aquaman again, probably at the top. This is probably going to be top 3, but it's a little bit of a quiet one. But I mean, it's fine. I know some people are giving it out. It's inoffensive. It's fine. It's a gentle thing. I really wasn't a big fan of the third act. It was a little bit flabby, but it was fine. It was good. Okay, before we finish, first of all, going back to what some people were saying. Now, I'm very disappointed with this, actually. Zayas Bilu saying in the chat, Replica got leaked early. I can tell because an HD version is available on my Fire Stick already. Now, come on. Please don't pirate films. Please don't pirate films. I mean, if there's a movie that you want to watch on Netflix or Amazon, just wait a couple of months. You don't have to go and see these movies if you don't want to give them the money, but genuinely stealing this content, it fucking hurts the industry. And if we claim to love movies, we can't do that shit. So I understand the temptation is there. I really, really genuinely do. I ask you, as someone in the industry, as someone who's a movie fan, please don't just wait for it to come out or go and see it. Go and see it when it's quiet. Go and see it when you can get a cheap ticket. Please don't pirate movies. Yeah, wait for it to come to the dollar theater. Please don't pirate movies.
Couldn't agree with you more, especially coming from a distribution standpoint and working for Technicolor for 5 years, where we're working to combat that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it hurts the brand.
It's also, I mean, not to seem like a fucking Nazi, but it's a criminal act, and we want more movies and more stories to be told, and we want people to take risks on making smaller movies and stuff like that. Sometimes they're gonna suck, sometimes they're gonna be great, but come on, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot by pirating movies. I know it's tempting, and I know if it's there, but it's like you just don't have to do it. Please, it's disappointing when people do that. So please don't. If you're tempted, I would just ask you. You can make your own decision. I would say please don't. We talked about other award ceremonies today. We cannot finish the show today. We've only got a couple of minutes, but without giving a huge amount of recognition to you, Scott.
Thank you.
For what you did this week with the LAOFCS awards ceremony this week. absolutely phenomenal work. You attracted a stellar cast of talent in the second year of this event. You got to show the diversity of the LAOFCS, LAOFCS.
Lasseter or whatever.
Yes, again.
Feces.
You got to show the diversity of the organisation, which is something I know you embrace, and it's something we try to embrace. Perhaps we don't do it as often as we should. I want to work on that. But on the show, congratulations for that. And for people, I don't know if you saw on social media, for people like Brie Larson, who was one of the invited guests, and Elsie Fisher as well, to praise you and the work of the group online this week is a considerable, and it needs to be recognized, achievement. You did phenomenally well, and I take my hat off to you.
Thank you so
You did
so
an
much.
amazing job. The people that you nominated and the people that won are not the same as all the other award ceremonies, which was refreshing. It was a great event. Hats off to you. You did a fantastic job. A couple of minutes to talk about it.
Thank you. I am always blown away by this event. It's only the second year, as you pointed out, and I really, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I really pour my heart and soul into this. I said this at the show. I come from a family where I grew up. You know, my dad wasn't in the picture for half my life. My mom raised me. I have 6 adopted brothers, 4 of which are black. You know, growing up in a neighborhood in New Jersey, I always believed in diversity and never kind of saw why there was always this controversy of whether you had an Indian friend or an Asian friend or a black friend. And, you know, when I came out here and I started hearing all this controversy about like the lack of diversity and whatnot, I just wanted to use, for lack of a better term, my white privilege, because as much as I hate that phrase, you know, it's a sad reality that
We don't choose it, but it is afforded.
It's kind of like you need to do it, and it's like, and if you want to make a difference, let's make the difference for good. And I got together, and we wanted to really reach out to people who were underrepresented voices. And if you watch the show, which will be on at 11 o'clock today, you know, there's always different voices on there, and it's just so important to me. And in terms of the actual ceremony, last year we had Jordan Peele and we had Jessica Chastain, and Guillermo came, Edgar Wright, and it was amazing at how open-minded, and the studios kind of accepted this with open arms, and it was really like powerful to me and very touching to me. And I got, you know, last year I dedicated the show to my mom. This year I pretty much dedicated the show to the group, because the members are really what makes this organization. This group, it's funny because, like, even though I am the founder of it, the group would not become a reality if it wasn't for the other members. And what makes it stand out so much is them and their support and their, you know, charisma and feedback and their reviews and their opinions. And I think it's so important. And you know, to have Brie Larson not only be just a sweetheart at the event, and just be so playful with me during a very nervous speech, because I love Brie Larson so much, and to go up on stage and to give her an award, and then to her play back and forth with me for like that 10 minutes was fantastic. But for her the next day to wake up and to see on social media, this is one of the best award shows. Anyone who's a winner and a nominee, and they should go to this show.
She's been to the Oscars multiple times.
Yes.
It's like,
Absolutely.
I don't know what to say. And I just, you know, thank you, Brie. Thank you, everyone, you know, who's been there. Bo and Elsie and, God, the Quiet Place producers, everyone who attended.
And Amandla as well.
Amandla, oh
She
my
was
God, amazing.
Impressive.
And the director,
Yeah,
you give,
Robert.
Space
Yeah,
is
I know.
great.
I'm sorry, but there was just so many people, and everyone embraced it. Amandla's mom.
Yes.
You know she watches the show. Did she tell you?
Really?
No,
She
no, I
watches
didn't-
the show. She
you-
watches
what?
the LAOFCS show. She said that I watch everything that you guys do, and she's like, I'm so impressed. And she's like, I've been watching you say all these nice things about this movie.
And I
since the
met her,
beginning."
and she's from the same neighborhood. She was so sweet.
Oh my God,
That's
it was
crazy.
Just
Well,
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
That's awesome.
I mean, I thank you everyone for supporting. I mean, but you know, this has become my biggest achievement, my crowning achievement.
Yeah.
I've worked on a website. I've been doing my own thing for about 15 years. But my God, seeing the last 2 years, and I'm telling you, this is no bullshit. couple days leading up to the event, I'm like kind of like, fuck this, I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this again. And then I go to the event and I see the reaction and I hear all this stuff. And when you get celebrities walking out of an award ceremony, which like Simon nicely pointed out earlier, there's just one after another. And last year, Guillermo said this was one of the best award shows.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman last year, this award show is going to be standing room only. And then Brie Larson next morning tweeting that, hearing other people saying like they didn't want to leave. You know, like Lucy of Bohemian Rhapsody saying like, I really didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Like, that is amazing. And I'm just blown away. Thank you so much. And guys, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks for the invite. I mean, we sat at the same table.
Yeah.
And we had a great time watching this unfold. Simon, I think you'll agree, and ladies and gentlemen, Scott here gave a speech about like including people and being diverse and change and inciting change. There hasn't been a speech like that, I'm telling you, since Rocky IV.
Oh.
I'm telling you right now.
Oh no.
Putin got up from his couch, started applauding for no reason. He had no idea, but it was a really great speech.
Thank you.
And it really was a great show. And it was not just diversity of people, but of film.
Yes.
Too. So
Thank you.
It was amazing.
A lot of people in the chat are congratulating you as well, Scott.
Thank you.
And I'm genuinely looking forward to the third year.
Yes.
And my comment earlier about stuff on a Fire Stick, yeah, it still counts even if it's streaming, even if you don't download it. You shouldn't have it. You shouldn't have it. You shouldn't be able to watch it. If you can watch it with your pants off, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much this
Thank
week.
you.
We've run way over time, but I wanted to pay due respects to you and what
Thank
you
you. I
achieved
really
this year with this
appreciate that.
award.
Thank you.
Genuinely an amazing job. Very quickly, Dimitri, tell me who you are and where can we find you?
You can find me here on Meet the Movie Press. Also, we will be coming back.
It's like the awards are being played off.
Right.
Hurry up.
So today,
Hurry up.
easy,
Hurry up. Come on.
easy. I can't now. I'm done.
Okay,
done.
Scott-
At DMovies1701 on the Twitters.
Okay, Scott Menzel, WeLiveEntertainment.com. Tune into LAOFCS weekly at 11 o'clock today. Thank you.
I'm Simon Thompson. You can find me at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. This is Simon Thompson on Facebook. I'd like to thank my mother, my late father. I'd like to thank God, of course. And I'd like to thank you, the audience. Thank you so much for watching the show this week. And also Amanda's mum. Thank you so much. My new favorite person. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, guys. Thank you.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.